with us today?
Well, we have this gentleman that I've known for a while now. Los Angeles Times said that he was one of gospel music's most successful and consistent songwriters.
Uh huh.
Um, this gentleman has written, like you said, "Power Belongs to God." He's written "God of a Second Chance." He's written "I Need You to Survive." None other than the anointed pen, because I know that pen is anointed when it gets to writing.
Shaba.
David Fraizer. What's up, Mr. Fraizer?
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Man, we blessed. We blessed.
Brother David, I don't know if you heard me, but I've had a beef with you
He always have a beef with somebody.
for the last 20 seconds.
He always have a
You
beef.
know, I tried my
A
best.
whole 20
A
seconds.
whole 20 seconds.
Always
I
got
tried my best to get a song from you
mm,
about 3 seconds ago,
right.
and I still ain't got my song. Can we work it out today? You know, I don't want to have an alt in my heart against you.
Pray
We'll,
about it.
we'll figure something out. We'll figure
Right.
something out.
Right. Pray about it. That's always the easiest answer.
Man, I tell you, you are the wind beneath so many artists' wings.
Yes, sir.
You have been penning great gospel songs for so many
For
years.
years.
We just want to first of all start off by saying we salute you and we honor you from God Radio for allowing us to have this great music to share with the world.
Yes.
Well, God bless you. Thank you all for being so kind to an old man. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I owe each one of you $5. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
$5. Okay, I thought you were gonna say 100 or something like that. But little is much when God is in it.
Well, we're gonna start off by just asking you, when did you start your career, your professional career in writing music?
Well, it all pretty much kind of I want to say started as a young boy at church. I'm a church boy. I was born on. I used to tell people I was born on pew number 12 in my church in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
Started out singing in the choir with the children's choir and the youth choir. Then started playing the drums at an early age. Then started playing the bass. Then start playing the piano. And from the piano, I was introduced to the organ. And then there was a musician at my church at that time, Bishop Michael Rogers, who now is Apostle Michael Rogers, and down there in Virginia. He was in Brooklyn, New York. He was my bishop's son, and he was a very prolific songwriter. The Bible Way Radio Choir did
Oh
a couple of
yes.
albums on
Oh
Savoy
yes.
Records
Yes.
years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I just wanted to be like Michael Rogers. You know, he wrote great songs. He directed the choir. He played the organ. I wanted to be just like him. So I studied him. I spent a lot of time just listening to him. And one Sunday, while I was playing the piano, he asked me to come over to the organ and start playing for the choir. I said, I'd never played the organ before. He said, well, put your right hand down here, put your left hand up here, and start playing. And then I started playing the organ and started writing songs for my local church, writing the radio broadcast theme and the Easter play theme.
Oh, wait a minute.
Easter songs.
Hold on. Okay, so he said he wrote the radio broadcast theme. How did it go?
Let's see. Oh man, you put me on the spot, but it's been 40 years, so you gotta give me a chair. Let me see. It went. I can hardly remember. Pentecostal praise celebration is a time for regeneration. It's time that we serve the Lord, something like that,
Okay.
in the choir segment.
So at a very early
Yeah,
age,
so
you were a brander. You was branding as well as branding choirs and sounds at a very early age.
yeah, I mean, locally at my home church, I wrote a lot of, my radio choir. My church was on the radio back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
We were on television, so people would call and ask, could they buy a song that they heard the choir sing, and my bishop or somebody would say, well, we don't know what song that is. It ain't on no record or nothing like that. And the stuff that I wrote that the choir sang, and one of the choir members at that time, members of my church, was Hezekiah Walker. And when he left my church to start Love Fellowship Crusade Choir, they had recorded one record, the I'll Make It record, which I didn't get a song on that one. But the second album, which was Oh Lord, We Praise You, recorded live in D.C., I did a song called Your Name Is Hallowed in This Place that Kirby Brown sang. And that was my first placement with Bishop Hez. And then after that, was the Benson deal, which was the Focus on Glory album, and I wrote a couple of songs on that. Let the Glory was on that record. Getting the Move of God was on the record. And another song, Only Trust Him, was on the Focus on Glory record. And then, like from then, we just kind of started this kind of relationship where every time he was going to record an album, he would always call me to come in and write songs. So from the Focus on Glory album, then live in Atlanta, then live in Canada, then live in New York. We wrote a couple of songs on those records, songs like Second Chance, How Much We Can Bear, I'll Fly Away, Never Gonna Let You Go, He's on Your Side.
You was writing almost the whole album.
So then, just the relationship started to bloom. And then, as the records kept on coming, I started to write probably more of the signature songs. Like Power Belongs to God, or We Made It, or I Needed to Survive, or something like that.
Well,
and then,
I'm going to ask a question.
We started writing for some other artists as well, too.
I got this question. So after you had all these hits running with Bishop Hezekiah, did one time he call you up and you put him on hold and said, look, I'm going to make him wait this time because, I'm David Fraizer?
No, I mean, you have to understand, like, the relationship probably, we talking about, as young kids, we grew up in the same church. And, he myself, Melvin Crispell, Jules Bartholomew, we were all kind of just kids in Brooklyn. Stanley Brown, we were all kids in Brooklyn. And, we grew up together. So it was like, hey, what you doing? What you doing? Hey, I'm getting ready to record a record. You got a song. And, so it was real. The church was maybe 10, 15 minutes from where I lived. So,
what I like about you is that you said something a few minutes ago that you started writing at your church first. And I think that's important for these young writers and singers. They all want to get this like
mega deal.
Pay me for my song, and nobody knows you from the person down the street. I think it's important that you talk about how you have to plant a seed and start building a reputation as a reputable writer.
Yeah, one of the things that I tell songwriters now, or just in classes and workshops and things, it was a blessing to have a proving ground for music, for my songs, and a safe proving ground. I had a church where we did with music that was recorded, but we also was open to original music. And because I was writing so much, I was able to see how some songs went well, some songs didn't go well. My bishop would have a microphone near his chair, and if he liked something, he would say glory or hallelujah or something. And then if he didn't like it, he'd say all right. And that meant, go back and work on it.
Right.
And having that platform to practice. I don't think songwriters now just have to kind of just get out there and just hope for the best.
Right.
But having that home church, having that platform to just kind of get through, just work out the kinks, work
Right.
out
Right.
how to work through three-part harmony, how to work through messages,
Hmm.
keeping your messages strong, seeing how people respond to it.
Right.
Right there on the spot. I mean, that you can't really, beat that. Nowadays, we just have to kind of just hope for the best. Put something out and hope people like it, and kind of keep on rolling.
Right.
One of the things that you had said that I followed through, that you play the drums, the bass, the organ. What other instruments do you play? And have you ever just produced a song totally with you playing everything like Prince, and nobody need to come in? You just look at it and say, "Oh, it's done."
Well, the when I was first coming along, I went to a church where, very musical church, and a lot of friends of mine who were drummers or bass players. At that time, if you went to a church locally, a lot of churches didn't have drums.
Hmm.
Excuse me. A lot of churches didn't have basses, bass, bass
Hmm.
amps
Hmm.
or instruments to play.
Hmm.
But there was always a piano and there was always an organ. So, as you wanting to serve and wanting to be a part in what was happening in church, we just kind of moved to the instrument that was most prevalent. A good friend of mine, Joe Wilson, who was a part of the SOP.
Natalie Wilson. Yes.
Natalie Wilson.
Hmm.
Joe started out the same way. He started playing the drums, then he went to the bass, then he went to keys, because at that time, your church, you played what was available at the church at the time. And I was lucky to have some other instruments there at the church when I was growing up. But a lot of days I would bring my stick bag. There was no drums. I'd be wanting to play the bass. There was no bass, but there was always a piano, always an organ. So I just kind of moved my desire around a little bit.
And
And then I want to say, in regard to the second part of your question, as far as doing all the instruments,
Mhm.
I did a couple of albums called I'm still doing them, but they're called Psalms, Hymns, and Spiritual Songs.
Hmm.
And my very first two Psalms hymns, I did like a lot of the instruments. I played all the keys, did the bass lines, did drum machine and stuff like that. So yeah, I've done that before.
What I like how, from our era, because I'm 51, how our musicians from then came out of our home church. So we weren't like hiring like they do now. Now it's like whoever is the flavor of the month, the musicians seem to go
Right,
there. Back then, people
right.
served. You were cultivated, and you were made from practicing on us. And I think it's important that the young people now know, because nobody wants to serve. They're at a church for a month. If they don't like the pay or they don't like the pastor, they're off to the races, and it become hopping from church to church. How do you feel about that? Serving in your church.
Well, again, and you talk about eras. I'm 54 years old,
Right.
and when you start talking about serving, the I think it has a lot to do with your personal commitment and relationship with Christ.
Hmm.
Um, First and foremost, which kind of builds in you a attitude to serve. Um, and I do understand the need for, musicians now want to make a living doing gospel music. They want to make a living playing music. Um, I do understand that, and I think there's a way to do that.
Hmm.
Um, if you provide some skills
Yes.
to a church, I think there's a conversation that has to be had between the pastor and first of all, the pastor mostly with himself, to kind of find out what direction that he wants his church to go in musically.
Hmm.
Is this something that's important to him? And if it's important, how much the churches can budget as far as the quality that they want to present. So
Right.
that goes into some other things. I'm actually finishing I wrote a book about music ministry some years ago,
I
and
haven't.
I'm writing another book called The Build: Music Ministry from the Ground Up, and just kind of want to have those kind of discussions where people, a church that has a budget that may bring in $100,000 a year, they can only afford, maybe 5 to 10% of their yearly budget to do those kinds of things.
Right.
And churches that bring in more can budget out more.
Right.
But it basically starts out with, an understanding of what God has called that particular leader, that particular church to, and then what the budget of the church can afford.
Right.
And then they can start moving forward.
Right.
And one of the things is that this is a different season and time. Growing up in my local church and being a musician and everything like that, the one thing that our pastor, the late Bishop J. Blake Sr., he basically invested in his music program by starting off with the young kids. And so he brought every kid in the church that wanted to play an instrument, and he let us practice on all of them. So the people that came out and became professional musicians and things of that nature, it was very easy for them to serve at their home church because the investment was done at the home church. They honed their skills at
Right.
the home church.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was an obligation to be at the home church, but he also allowed us to grow to the next level. And I think that that's the biggest thing that we need to encourage people is that if you want a great music department, you have to invest not just in the hired guns, but invest in your young people, and then you will have a homemade, homegrown music department that will continue to give and give and give. Like you were saying that you were writing songs as a young age, you were on radio. The bishop would either say, or your pastor would either say, well, or all right now, or he gave you those approval, but basically you were able to hone your skills right there and became a homegrown.
Right.
Yeah, there's what I tell pastors nowadays. You know what you have, but you don't know what you don't have. You don't know what that's going to be about. So investing in what you have first is key. Maybe finding some seasoned musicians, some professional musicians locally that can be brought in to train what you have. And if you don't have anything and you're trying to build, then you have to kind of, create a budget until God sends what you need,
Right.
so that you can move forward. But that's the basics of it. But church now is kind of more. We kind of want it right now. It's like a microwave church.
Right.
We instead of going, building and investing
Right.
and pouring into, everything needs to happen right away. So
quick
people
fix.
just kind of
Quick fix.
Yeah. So and with the quick fix, you have those kind of issues where musicians are jumping around looking for the best pay slot. So
Now, how do you feel with the huge world reception of "I Need You to Survive"?
well, I Need to Survive is like a kind of like an anomaly in and of itself. It's kind of hard to explain as far as how people have responded to it. I Need to Survive is came out in 2003.
Wow.
And
Still powerful.
even now, still I do a lot of licenses for that song. It's been sung just about every place. I recently got a program from the opening of Tyler Perry Studios in Atlanta last year. He had a Sunday morning. He had a weekend to open his studio, but he had a Sunday morning service. And right in the program, in between all of the prayers and all of the well wishers, is a song, "I Need You to Survive." Just they just wanted to, I guess that was something that was, meaningful to him. So Oprah Winfrey has sang it on her show. It's been performed by the Boston Pops, the London Symphony Orchestra. It's been sung at the Republican National Convention, Democratic National Convention. It's been sung at cancer walks, and it's actually in the Universal Circus now, from what I understand. I mean, it's just it's kind of hard to explain, but the song was written. I was sitting on the organ at a small church that I was serving at, and listening to a preacher preach about 1 Corinthians, the 12th chapter, and song came, and I wrote it right there on the organ and sang it before the service was over, and started singing it every Sunday at this church to close their services. And then I showed it to Bishop Hez, and then the rest was kind of history.
And you know what's so unique about that song, David? It's totally sung in unison. That's not typical of a gospel song. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, that was the drawback when I first showed Bishop Hezekiah Walker the song. His response was, "I don't know about that one. We don't really sing songs in unison. It's slow. It's not our style.
Right.
That was the the Family Affair 2 album,
Right.
and I had showed him We Made It first, but he loved We Made It, but he wasn't too keen on I Need to Survive. But we actually tried it at a church service that he had, and it was a total wipeout. And it was just like, okay, I guess I better
see.
do this song,
I
God.
see.
Yeah. So
Well, that's I would say it's one of the biggest gospel songs in history. There's no way to get away from that. I mean, that was 2002, man. That's 18 years ago, and the song is still as meaningful and powerful as it was when it first came out.
yeah, it's just like I said, it's kind of hard to explain. I personally have a love for gospel music. I'm a student of gospel music,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of songs that I really, really love that I've heard over my life. From the early Andre Crouch days, early
Yes.
Edwin Hawkins days,
Yes.
early Walter Hawkins days, early Matty Morse Clark,
Yes.
early Whitfield, early Brooklyn gospel music, Timothy Wright,
Institution.
J.C. White,
Yes.
Institutional. I've heard a lot of great songs,
Yes, sir.
and it's just really, really weird how and it's probably because of the simplicity of the song, the
Very simple.
simplicity of the
Hmm.
message,
Hmm.
the universality of the message,
Hmm.
and how everybody at some point, no man is an island. We all need each other.
Yes.
And when you say that to somebody who's going through, who's struggling, I pray for you, you pray for me. We're going to get through this together. It's just amazing to see, the response and how God has kind of moved in that simple message. So.
Right. It's one of those songs that I call heart to heart songs because my choir has sung it in front of non-African Americans, and to see the tears that flow down people's faces, I think that says a lot
Hmm.
about that song. Now, what are you up to now, my brother? You have some new music out on a few top Billboard albums. I've been doing my
well,
research.
well, well. I try to write pretty often
Hmm.
music. I did an album in 2018 for the church where I'm the director of worship and fine arts at. The church is called Beulah Land Bible Church
Hmm.
in Macon, Georgia, and the name of the record was called Pastor Carlos Kelly Presents BBC Worship 2018.
Carlos Kelly.
And what I did was, yes, that's the name of the pastor of the church.
He used to be in Arkansas,
And
I believe, when I went to college.
exactly.
Was he in
And
San
he
Diego at one point?
relocated.
Not Carlos Kelly. He was
Uh,
he was
he,
Arkansas.
Oh,
That's why years
he
years
gets a chance to preach around the country.
Hmm.
He's a great preacher,
Oh
great
yes,
teacher.
yes,
Uh, um, anyway, he was in Arkansas. He relocated to Macon,
yep.
Georgia, and in his third year or fourth year in pastoring, we connected. He asked me to come down and help with the church there, and we did a record called BBC Worship 2018. On that record was a song called Release, and Release was heard by one of the musicians for Ricky Dillon. I brought in to be MD for the recording session,
Hmm.
and he shared the project with Ricky. And then Ricky called me one day, was like, "Man, I love this whole record. How many songs off this record can I record on my new record?"
All of them.
And he said, I said, "Well, you know, what are the ones that you just really, really like? So he was like, well, I like the first one, and I like Release, and I like another song. Well, I said, well, why don't you see how Release goes with the choir first?
Right.
You know, just kind of see how it flows, and you know, we talk about it. So he went and taught Release to New G, and it went over really, really well. So he wanted to do another one, but you know, just settled on Release. So Release was the first single for Ricky Dillon New G for the new project called Choir Master.
Yes.
And I believe it's doing pretty well in radio. I'm hoping that it'll be top 10 radio, but I know it's top 15 right now, radio around the country. And Tiff Joy sings the song on the Ricky Dillon record.
She's phenomenal.
So we thank God for that. And we did a song called God is Doing Something Wonderful in Me on one of my CDs some years back. And we Brian Karn has released that as a single himself, and it's doing pretty well. And then a choir out of Connecticut called Kurjima Community Choir have a song called "Fill This Place."
We play it
Myron
here.
Williams, Dr. Myron Williams, there out of Dallas leads.
Yes.
We have that, and they've just been trying to keep writing, and you know. I hope to have some David Fraizer music out real soon. I'm working on a couple of things. It will be audio and visual. So when you'll be able to see the video and hear the song, and I'm going to do some real choiry, choral kind of thing.
Yes, choir music. Yes, the best music.
Just wanna say choir music lives.
Yes, sir.
Yes, choir music lives.
Yes.
Hashtag yes, choir music lives.
Yes.
I'm a choir guy, and want to always try to do music for churches for Sunday morning. Timothy Wright told me 30 years ago if I would write songs for Sunday morning, I would never wear out.
That's
what
right.
Timothy Wright told me.
That's right.
And I follow his instruction from then till now.
Well, we thank God for you in this season of your life, because man, you're writing and you're blessing people. Music is a universal language. I don't care where you go, people gravitate, people are touched, people are pulled together through music. And I appreciate you for writing a song for me. So we're gonna be working on that real soon. And we want you to tell people how to follow you.
Well, I want to just caveat on your last statement. Music is a universal language. 2017, I was blessed to go overseas to Sweden and Germany, and the crowds of people that came to sing some of the songs I wrote was just unbelievable. Wow. We had 1,300 choir members in Stockholm, Sweden, 1,000 in Gävle, Sweden. Wow. We went over to Gothenburg to the School of Gospel. Another 2,000 met us there. All over Germany, and all they wanted to do was sing "I Need to Survive." They wanted to sing "Second Chance." They wanted to sing some of my music, "Favor," "Walking in the Favor of God," and "Have Your Way," and stuff like that. And you know, it's very unique to kind of go someplace and do your own music. You know, to travel and just all I was doing, sitting at a piano and teaching these large choirs. Gospel music. So yes, it is a universal language, and all overseas, it is that's really why Donald Lawrence was having his gospel music conference overseas for Denmark. It was kind of postponed because of coronavirus, but overseas is a wonderful audience and market. People are really hungry. They'll drive, they'll fly, they'll carpool, they'll take a bus, they'll sleep in churches at night and wake up in the daytime and come and want to hear gospel songs. So, yeah, it's really, really amazing. So shout out to overseas. I'm sharing this interview on my pages, and I'm sure people from Sweden and Germany and Africa and other places that are friends of mine are sharing over in Spain and in France.
Right.
that are singing gospel music and are connected to me are now connected to you guys as well too. I'm on social media, of course, David Fraizer and David Fraizer the second on Facebook. I also have a David Fraizer music page on Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
on Instagram, David Fraizer one, and on Twitter, Dave's Lyric. And I also have a website, davidfraizer.net, and try to keep that up to date with music that I'm doing and working on, and keep people up to date with that. So I'm pretty easy to find. So hopefully, if anyone has any questions or want to know about music, I recently posted on Facebook a playlist on Apple Music, a playlist on Spotify, just some of the music and some of the artists that I work with. It's about 40 songs, I think. So you can check that out as well.
That's a
Just some of the
catalog.
music that I've done over the years.
That's a catalog.
I couldn't get them all on there, but I mean, it's about 35, 40.
Right.
Well, brother, we appreciate you so much for calling in and
Yes.
spending this
Such
time
an
with
honor.
us. We want you just to pitch this new song released by Ricky Dillard. We're going to play it right after that.
Well, this is a release by Ricky Dillard and New G featuring Tiff Joy. There's a blessing, there's a healing, and there's a breakthrough for you. It's already been released.